The theme for this morning and next Sunday and Christmas Eve is A Weary World Rejoices. Yes, we're weary. We're also troubled and puzzled, maybe more frequently than we are actually filled with joy. And when we realize that, the elusiveness of joy troubles us further. We have adopted the subtle notion that favor with God or the blessing of God or a calling from God will finally land us in a place that is more comfortable and more comforted. And then we encounter more hurdles. Death claims another one. Relationships crumble and communities experience one setback after the other. The writer John Pavlovitz writes, "If there was ever a time to abandon joy, it would be now. If there was ever a season when despair was justifiable, it would be this one. If there was a moment to surrender fully to hopelessness, this would be it. And yet, I am fighting not to let the darkness around me steal the light within me." Christmas, as I understand it, is the presence of peace rising up when peace is most counterintuitive. We are struggling to hold on to that light within ourselves right now. And right now, it is more valuable and powerful and necessary than it's ever been. End quote. That's Pavlovitz's perspective. We may ask, where is the God of promises? The God of comfort, the God of deliverance? Where indeed is the God of hope, peace, joy, and love? And what gave us the audacity to claim that a weary world is rejoicing? I believe Mary, the mother of Jesus, felt exactly the same way. Mary didn't live in a holy bubble. She was young, she was vulnerable, and she was terrified. When she was visited by the angel, the story Roger read for us from Luke's Gospel, she is described as deeply troubled when she receives the message. Who wouldn't be deeply troubled upon receiving that message? This was before the words of panic and anxiety were in people's vernacular. The angel eloquently explains why this overwhelming news of an impending pregnancy and the birth of a child is a good thing. Of course it is. If you have the perspective to see the broader picture, the much, much fuller story, it's amazing news. The angel Gabriel urges Mary not to be afraid, assures her that she will be given a special place in God's overarching trajectory of history. And then he speaks of the significance of the child who will be born, who minutes ago Mary knew nothing about, and as a result of a pregnancy around which she couldn't even wrap her head. At that point, Mary was hardly in a place to grasp that this message was good news. Even the words, "nothing is impossible with God," may have felt like a platitude if they thought about those things in her day. The joy that would be heralded to the shepherds in the fields after Jesus' birth was in a distant place, in a foreign town, and at a future date. But now, joy seems like a cruel myth. Every piece of good news on earth has its origins within messy humanity, troubling alliances that benefit no one but the powerful, and in the midst of inadequate resources for those most in need of them. This has been true throughout history, and ordinary humans always are buffeted back and forth like falling leaves in autumn winds. So the four themes of Advent, hope, peace, joy, and love, lead us to believe that they are possible, even probable. But if we're honest, each of these words feel warm, yet miserably unattainable. Where is hope in our weary world? We know that peace is ever evaporating on the world stage. Joy? Well, that feels impossible. And love. We hope, we long, we dare dream of love, but love for the ages, not the sentimental, superficial, romantic kind of fleeting love, but something deep, something consequential, something trustworthy, filled with comfort and steadfastness. Each of these concepts feel like a single drop when we long for a thirst-quenching bucketful to drink. It feels this way because it's true. We cannot quench our spiritual and emotional thirst by simply considering one concept during each week of Advent. Hope, peace, joy, and love are like single drops. We wonder what they mean and how we can access them so that at some point we can ultimately have our thirst quenched by them. Words alone are single drops. Unless surrounded by thousands of other drops, enough to fill a glass or a pitcher, we cannot quench our thirst. We cannot offer water to others. Joy lives inside of a bucketful of accompanying droplets. So these droplets are, among other things, awe and wonder, gratitude, letting go and trust, maybe even abandon. One word alone is a single drop, unless surrounded by thousands of other droplets or concepts. We can't quench our thirst. I can't project what Mary's emotions encompassed the day the angel appeared to give her this news, but I imagine her deeply troubled was more than only fear. She may well have been overwhelmed by the changes that would come over her physically, in her community, and how she would experience her entire life. She may not have been able to speak with her fiancé, Joseph, or even her parents, because the very next verse after the ones that Roger read tells us that Mary left immediately to visit Elizabeth. Mary may have questioned, why me? She may have felt betrayed that none of what she was hoping for in her life with Joseph would ever materialize the way she had envisioned it. I don't know. What I do believe wholeheartedly is this. When Mary said, I am the servant of God, let it be done to me as you say, this was not a statement of submissive acquiescence. Quite the contrary. First of all, she obviously knew truth and authenticity when she saw it. She knew the angel Gabriel, though as far as we know, they had never had a personal encounter before. She knew transcendence when she saw it, and she knew that the ways of God would come to pass. Where had she learned this at her young age? That wisdom doesn't happen by chance, and it doesn't happen automatically with year upon year of life. Intentional work goes into that. Second, we learn that Mary was one who pondered. After the shepherds and spiritual mystics from the East had paid the newborn Jesus a visit, she pondered these things in her heart, we're told. Again, when had she learned to ponder? She had been in a secluded place which invited transcendence before, obviously, because it was evident. So her words in response to Gabriel's message are more of a conclusion of the conversation. Got it. I understand the assignment, almost as if to say, I don't need any more information right now. I need to process and to ponder. Henry David Thoreau said, take long walks in stormy weather or through deep snows in the fields and woods if you would keep your spirits up. Deal with brute nature. Be cold and hungry and weary. That sounds like an Advent chore or invitation to us, doesn't it? But Mary walked. She was in the middle of a stormy season, stormy weather, and she walked in the fields and along the way. She walked the roughly 100 miles from Nazareth, where the angel met her, to where Elizabeth lived. Leisurely stroll in the park. It was a rough mountain terrain that she traversed. There would have been plenty of time to think, to piece things together, to mull the angel's words over and over in her mind. Something happened while she walked, pondered, processed. Thoreau would say she walked her spirits up. When she arrives at Elizabeth and Zachariah's home, she's greeted by Elizabeth's booming voice, confirming all that the angel had told her would come to pass. No, they hadn't been in touch. No phone, no texting, no videos from the road. Transcendence. In response, Mary utters one of the most profound statements recorded in the gospel writings. It wasn't a rehearsed statement, but a spontaneous outpouring bubbling to the surface during her many miles of walking, hour after hour of pondering, wrestling, coming to a place of letting go, to trust the divine for the journey, to a place of awe in spite of uncertainty. So Mary's agreement with the angel was far from acquiescence, but it was a statement of, I know I will get to this place that you speak of because I know the messenger and I recognize transcendence. Because of this, she was able to make a profound declaration, including these words: with all of my heart I glorify Yahweh. In the depths of who I am, I rejoice in God, my Savior. There's that word, rejoice. Was she weary? Yes. Were all uncertainties resolved? Absolutely not. Did she have assurance that she would receive support and affirmation and understanding when she returned to Nazareth? Not that either. So what happened? Mary took the time. After hearing the angel's words, she again did her inner work. She took this single troubling message from the angel, walked with it, kneaded it like dough, rolled it around in her heart, held it up against other revelations of the divine that she had had. That's where and how the metamorphosis happened. She was no longer the deeply troubled young woman but she came to a place where she could receive this life-giving, transformative, transcendent gift. The inner hidden work that she did was crucial for divine purposes to become a possibility. One message alone is a single drop. Unless surrounded by thousands of other drops, we cannot quench our thirst. And if we are not satisfied, we cannot offer water to others. So how about us? Do we recognize transcendence when we see it? How familiar are we with this inner world, the place where pondering, awe and gratitude, letting go and trust, germinate and grow? Do we reject deeply troubling information right out of the gate without pondering, before weighing its validity, refusing to consider the possibility? The season of Advent is an invitation to ponder, to take walks in stormy weather in order to keep or to get our spirits up, to experience life in its luminous joy and in its deepest pain. One does not disqualify the other. Transcendence, that holy place where overwhelming joy is no longer a myth, but a real possibility that is offered to each person. Favor with God, as it was spoken to Mary, or the blessings of, or the calling from God, does not position us in a more comfortable place, but it certainly brings us to a comforted place. As we determine to do our own inner work, we know God will meet us in truly astonishing ways. Mary is not unique in that. We may only comprehend the magnitude of that in years to come, but we can be certain of God's faithfulness. Mary's story beckons us to let go of what we cannot see and what troubles us in exchange for trust in the divine guide of the ages. And in the process, we're invited to overwhelming joy. May we recognize that invitation.